Hello, I'm Tom. I'm a 65-year-old runner who is chomping at the bits to race a 5K. Before I get started on this video, I'd like to give a big shout out and congratulations to Connor Mance, who just yesterday broke the American record for the marathon at the Chicago Marathon. So way to go, Connor Mance. Today's video is going to be about when to start racing again after taking time off from running and beginning a comeback. Is it a good idea to race sooner or later? I've been in that dilemma lately, and so hopefully you can learn a little bit from my experience and find out for yourself when you should begin racing again during your comeback. If you find this video helpful, please give it a like and subscribe to my channel. Thanks. In late August, I took 14 days off, which went into the first week of September. It's October 13th now. And then I began a very slow, gradual comeback. And the reason I took the time off was for calf injuries, which I've mentioned in previous videos. I'm very susceptible to calf strains in both calves. I began a gradual comeback, which involved increasing my mileage beginning at about a half a mile, and as well as incorporating run, walk, running into the program. I used to be a nonstop runner. The run, walk, running, I think, has helped. It's known for being a good method for injury prevention. I began run, walk, running, and slowly increased my mileage until now, October 13th, I'm up to 3 miles of run, walk, running. So far, my calves are doing great. So during this comeback phase, where I'm not putting in a whole lot of training, and by the way, according to Garmin, during the last 12 months, I've only averaged about 9 miles of running per week. So 2025 has not been a very good year for my running. I've had to take time off and on, and have dealt with the calf strains, and so I'm hoping that 2026 is going to be a lot better. And believe you me, I'm listening to my body and being very careful with my training, because this injury stuff is no fun, as you know. I also am applying hill training, which I've advocated and which I've recommended to you. The guy that I follow as far as hill training goes is Brad Hudson. Coach Brad Hudson prescribed hill sprints for his runners. He says that they're good for neuromuscular conditioning rather than cardiovascular conditioning. So they're basically, he referred to them as weightlifting without using weights. Brad Hudson recommends that if you haven't done hill sprints before, that you, of course, start gradual. You should always start any program gradually, beginning with very little and then slowly building up. So he recommended for those, for newcomers at hill training or hill sprints, to start with only 1 or 2 8-second hill sprints. And so 1 or 2 repetitions at 8 seconds, take a couple of days off, then increase it to maybe 2 to 3 repetitions at 8 seconds. And just continue doing that, about 2 of these hill sprint sessions per week. Then slowly you can build up to 10-second repetitions, increase the repetitions to like 3, 4, 5 repetitions. And over the course of 1 or 2 months, you can build up to 12-second sprints. He had his runners doing something like 8 to 10 repetitions. But you and I are older runners. And so I personally don't think it's a good idea for us to do that many repetitions. Personally, I'm going to gradually work up to 6 repetitions. I've been doing hills now for a couple of weeks, and I am now up to 4 repetitions of 12 seconds. And by the way, you also rest by walking back down the hill. Hudson recommends doing a complete recovery so that if you got out of breath, which you shouldn't get that out of breath since these hill sprints are so short, if you get out of breath, then make sure your heart rate and breathing are reduced practically nothing so that you can focus on speed going up the hill. Now, I don't sprint. I just try to run them at a semi-fast pace, running up the hill for 12 seconds and then walking back down. The reason for doing hill sprints is basically a twofold thing. They are strength training. They build those muscles that are used for running fast. That's one big reason for doing it. And also another reason that coaches have their runners go through a hill phase is to prepare their muscles for faster training on the track when they start doing intervals and that kind of a thing later in the season. So your muscles will be prepared for that speed training, and it won't be such a it won't have such a jarring effect. And so in essence, it prevents injury when you do start doing speed training. And the injury prevention is why I am doing hill sprints. Hill sprints strengthen the leg muscles, including the calves. And in fact, Jeff Galloway, in his book, says especially the calf muscles. So that's really good for me. And I've been doing hills now for a couple of weeks, and my calves are feeling good. I'm not feeling any strains or niggles in the calf muscles. So I'm assuming that they are getting stronger and they're going to be more resistant to injury. And so that is my primary reason for doing hills. As I've mentioned before, I'm an advocate of the 80-20 training, which involves 80% aerobic, slower running, and 20% faster, perhaps anaerobic running. You may think that by running hills twice a week, I'm doing anaerobic training. Well, these short hill sprints are actually more strength training. As Brad Hudson said, it's essentially weight training without using weights. And so I don't consider it in that 20% anaerobic type running training. It's more of doing a weightlifting session, except my legs are actually running up a hill for a very short duration. So essentially it's weightlifting, and it's in that category. And I do lift weights twice a week as well, for the upper body, and I do strengthening for my core as well twice a week. By the way, Brad Hudson does mention that he doesn't have his athletes, his runners, do any sort of weightlifting. So the only weight training that they do are these hill sprints or hill workouts. But he does have his athletes do core work, for the torso, the stomach. But other than that, the hill sprints are it for strength training as far as Brad Hudson's athletes go. Now, Brad Hudson had his runners continue to do hill sprints throughout the season, even when they continue on into like the anaerobic phase and even to the speed phase leading up to races. He had his runners continue to do hill sprints once a week. And his injury-prone runners, he had them continue to do hill sprints twice a week. Since I am an injury-prone runner, I'm going to try to do hill sprints, twice a week, I suppose. Sometimes it'll only be once a week. It just kind of depends on my schedule. As I mentioned before, I'm only running about 3 days per week. And I also do cycling on alternate days, twice a week, 30 minutes a shot for cycling sessions. So that gives me 5 days per week of cardiorespiratory conditioning. Just in the last week or so, I've noticed a definite improvement in my fitness. My pace has increased with very little effort, and so I'm definitely noticing that my fitness is improving. And along with this is an increase in my desire to race a 5K, which is what this video is about. And I actually intended on doing the Run with the Duck 5K in third or fourth week of October. And I actually was intending to race that 5K doing kind of a run, walk, run method with ratios of about 4 minutes running to 15 seconds walking. But I came to a decision about a week ago that maybe it's too soon to race. And that was actually a hard decision because like I said, I'm chomping at the bits. And I want to test myself to see where I'm at, see where my fitness is. And so it was a hard decision to make to not race in the Run with the Duck 5K. So I'm going to wait another month. And my goal is to run the Turkey Stuffer 5K on Thanksgiving morning in Springfield, Oregon, my hometown where I was born and raised. So the Turkey Stuffer 5K is a fairly large road race. As far as Springfield, Oregon goes, it's definitely the largest road race that they have in Springfield. So I'm looking forward to that again on Thanksgiving Day. That's going to give me another month to make sure that these hills are doing their job. I do plan to race about once a month during this comeback build. And I may run a January 1st 5K. So after the New Year's Day 5K, I'll call that the end of the season. So I'll take 4 days off. And then, assuming that I'm healthy, then I'll begin the official Arthur Lydiard aerobic phase build with that ultimate goal race of July 4th. In my last video, I focused on Lydiard's training, the training of Arthur Lydiard, and how he uses periodization. So periodization refers to a season, whether it be a cross-country season, whether it be a track season, and they usually involved a build that lasts anywhere from 12 to 18 weeks. And it involves a base training phase where you're doing primarily aerobic running to build up that aerobic base. Then you move into a hill phase where you strengthen the muscles to prepare them for the faster running that you're going to be doing on the track. And then you go through this anaerobic phase, which involves things like tempo runs, threshold training, track training. Then you move into a speed phase, which lasts 3 to 4 weeks before the big race or the goal race. My big race is going to be July 4th. That's a long way into the future. That's several months into the future. And so perhaps, if you've been calculating the months and training, you're going, wow, why am I waiting so long? Well, the reason is because I'm on a comeback, as I've mentioned before. And so I'm currently in a comeback build, beginning with very little mileage and slowly building it up, slowly incorporating these hills. And so it's going to take me quite a while to even come to a place where I consider that I am even building up a base. So right now it's a slow comeback build that's going to last through November, December, and then hopefully by January, late January, I'll be actually doing the Lydiard style aerobic training, and which can be considered an actual aerobic training period. One problem with having reduced training and struggling with injuries is there's a tendency to gain weight. And I ended up gaining 26 pounds to be precise during 2025, with the reduced mileage and everything, and not racing, not having the race goals as a motivational force. My nutrition hasn't been all that great. I've been eating too many carbohydrates, and the pounds sort of sneak up on you. My racing weight has been about 168 pounds. Well, a couple of weeks ago, I finally weighed myself, and I was 194 pounds, and so that's a good 26 pounds overweight. I decided a week or so ago, a couple of weeks ago, that kind of shocked me. Now that I am solidly on the comeback trail, I've decided to go back on a diet. The focus is on good, healthy nutrition and not eating junk food, not eating refined sugar, and even good carbohydrates, keeping those to a minimum. Eating lots of healthy vegetables, usually fresh, avoiding processed foods, trying to stick to raw foods when I can. And my wife is very good. She's the cook in our family, and so she typically cooks healthy meals for dinner. So my goal is to get back down to my racing weight, which was also my college racing weight back when I was a young man, 168 pounds. Actually, it's usually in the 167 or so pound range. I don't expect to reach that goal for several months. This isn't like a crash diet. It's more just focus on eating healthy. And of course, there is portion control involved as well. So it's taking a little bit of discipline, but I've done it before. I did lose 60 pounds, which began about 4.5 years ago after my doctor diagnosed me pre-diabetic. That shocked me into improving my diet, cutting back on sugar, cutting back on carbohydrates. And 4.5 years ago, I did begin a process where I, over the course of a year or so, lost 60 pounds. But as I just mentioned, 26 of those pounds just came back recently. So I'm currently dieting during this comeback phase. Okay, to race or not to race? Well, it comes down to listening to your body and making sure you're actually able to race. And so I do plan on racing, but got to exercise caution. And so for myself, it's best for me to wait and to make sure that my body will be able to handle the rigors of a 5K road race. By the way, for me, racing is the single biggest risk for injury. So I want to make sure that my legs are strong and ready to be able to handle the rigors of a race. Alrighty, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you in a week or two. Thanks.